This is Gemara Yevamos Daf Samoch Aleph. Old learning should bring an incredible schashid of Zalchaim and Devar Tam Tzibas Berachol. Shlomi ben Levi Zahava Ovik ben Teli Shemen Chayv Blum Yudas Basima Malka. Close for Shlomo Shmogis ben Efrei Shmom ben Tila Nazim Echlas and Chama Basibas Blum Bas Mendel Chayim Moshe Yeshua ben Malka Vashavig Shechano Besoich Shar Chayli Yisrael. We're holding on at the bottom of Samoch Amud Beis. We are 4 lines from the bottom. The last one in line is Ahu, and we're coming along over the heels of Rav Yaakov Bar Idi of yesterday, and we're coming to argue with Rav Yaakov Bar Idi of yesterday. What was Rav Yaakov Bar Idi of yesterday, as everyone is wondering, whoever forgot like myself? So if you go up a few lines, you see Amar Rav Yaakov Bar Idi, Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Alacha, Ki Rav Shimon Bar Yochai. Who was Rav Shimon Bar Yochai? So we go further up with them, and hopefully this you remember. Rav Shimon Bar Yochai said, Ge'eretz v'chuzba shel shan v'yom echad is allowed to marry a kohen. So Rav Yaakov Bar Idi paskin like Rashbi that a convert who converts less than 3 years old in one day is allowed to marry a kohen. Says the Gemara now, Ahu, 3 lines to the bottom, Ahu kahana de'insiv ge'eretz v'chuzba shel shan v'yom echad. There was a kohen who married a ge'eretz that was less than 3 years old in one day. Amar le Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, "My what's going on? How did you marry this girl?" Amar le, the kohen said, "What's your problem?" Amar Rav Yaakov Bar Idi, didn't you listen to Shir yesterday? Amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Rav Shimon Yochai. Amar le, Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak's not happy. Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak said, "Zil epic, get out of here. Go and divorce her. And if you don't divorce her, mafkinu lecha, I'm going to force you to divorce her. Mafkinu lecha. And if not, Rav Yaakov Bar Idi, V'loi mafkinu lach Rav Yaakov Bar Idi me'oinech. Rav Yaakov Bar Idi will remove you from your ear." A lashon, as Rashi explains, Koloimar Meshamtino l'chav tebek al karchach. I'm going to put you in a chayrim and force you to divorce her. So Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak arguing on Rav Yaakov Bar Idi and holding, even if she converted less than 3 years in one day, you still cannot marry her. Says the Gemara, a different topic of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, Tani v'chein oyo Rashbi oimer. Just like Rashbi taught us one din, he taught us another din as we turn over to Samach Aleph, Omer Aleph. Kivrei akum einoi metamim ba'oyel. The kever, the grave of a guy, is not metamim ba'oyel. As the Tab Rashi says, if you're ma'alil aleim, what does that mean? If you go over them, you become the oyel. You become the roof, the tent on top of it. The guy is a grave. It's not to transmit the tumah upward. How do I know? Says Rashbi. Shenemar v'etim soini soin merisei adam atem. It says, you, the sheep of my pasture, adam atem. You are an adam. Klal Yisrael is referred to as adam. Atem kiruyim adam. If they come kiruyim adam, goyim are not called adam, and therefore when it comes to tumas oyel, which it says adam ki yamos ba'oyel, goyim are excluded from such tumah. Meisvei asked the Gemara 1 second, 4 lines down. Samach Aleph Amar Aleph. B'nefesh adam shesha aser elef. Says the Basik, and the nefesh adam of 16,000, and this is referring to Goyim. So we see it calls Goyim adam. Explains the Gemara, no, mishum behema, but they're animals. So the animals are called Adam, not necessarily due to the people. Continues the Gemara, asher yeshba harbe mishtei asar riboy Adam. There were more than 120,000 Adam, who don't know the difference to the right or the left. So what do we see again? The Goyim, this is in Tanakh, I believe. The Goyim are being referred to as, this is Psukim in Yaina, says the Gemara. So the Goyim are being referred to as Adam. Explains the Gemara again, Misham Behema. And we try again with the third pasuk, Koloiring Nevesh Chonageh B'chol Tischato. This is a pasuk in the Torah that Moshe Rabbeinu says after the battle with Midyanim, whoever killed a person, Koloiring Nefesh Chonageh B'chol Tischato. So what do we see? We see that they become tischato, that if you touch the guy, you have to become tahar, says Moshe Rabbeinu. So clearly the Goyim are giving off tama if you have to become tahar from them. Says no, Dilma Iktal Chan Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling the soldiers, maybe you killed a yid, and that's why you became tamei. The Rabbanan, and according to the Rabbanan who argue on this din of Rashbi, and they all that Goyim do give off tama via the oyel. Lo nifgad mimenu ish. How do they learn the pasuk? Says the Gemara, they learned the pasuk is that none of us went missing, that there was no yidden that were killed. So we see clearly from this pasuk that when a guy is killed, the tumah is given off. Just means no yid was killed due to aveira, but there were yidden that were killed. Ravina Amar Nehedim Edinu Kurame Atmui Ba'ayel. Says Ravina, it's true the pasuk excludes them from Tumas Ayel. As we pointed out, Adam Kimus Ba'ayel, Mimago, Mimasa, Mimatin Kra, and therefore the pasuk of Moshe Rabbeinu is not a kash at all, because Moshe Rabbeinu says maybe you touch them in battle, but it has nothing to do with Tumas Ayel, and therefore the din of Rashbi could stand. And that concludes really the discussion from yesterday, wrapping up the loose end of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai's second din. Din number one was a ger yoyres pechusim yaskim l'shanim is let him marry a kohen, which we learned today. That was Rav Yaakov Bar Idi. Rav Yacham Bar Yitzchak argues. Din number two of Rashbi is that kohen are not matame ba'oil. Continues the Gemara. Now we're going to have a bunch of mishnayos. Says the Mishnah, Ireis es almana. If a kohen, not a kohen gadol, a regular kohen marries an almana, v'nismana liyos kohen gadol, a case that the Gemara already referenced a few days ago, and after the kohen marries almana, they appoint him to be kohen gadol. Mazel tov. But the problem is, he only did Eirisin. What's the halach? Is he allowed to consummate Tunesun of the marriage? Yiknois, he's allowed. And says the Mishnah, Ma'isiv Yeshua ben Gamlish Kiddush as Marsa Bas Baisos. He married a girl named Marsa Bas Baisos, Manu Ma'alech Leos Kohen Gadol, and they appointed him to be Kohen Gadol. V'kansa, and indeed he continued and married her. So that is din number one, that if a Kohen marries an Almana while he's a regular Kohen, even though afterwards he's made into Kohen Gadol, which is not allowed to marry an Almana, since he already did Eris and he's allowed to finish the Nesuin. Continues the Mishnah, Shemeres Yavon Shenavlo, if they Kohen had yet, what happens if a regular Kohen is a situation of Yibum? V'nizmana Leo is Kohen Gadol, and a regular Kohen could do Yibum, but then they appoint him to be a Kohen Gadol, and a Kohen Gadol cannot. Even though they already did Maimer Kedusha the Rabban and Arisa Lo Yiknos, in this case, you're not allowed to continue the marriage of the Yibum. So says the Gemara, let's deal with din number one, 7 lines from the wide lines. How do you know this? Then, so then we touched upon a few days ago, the Torah says you have to be yikach a besula as a wife, and therefore that's what we learn out. The actual word ish teaches us that when you married her, when you did the Eirisin, that is when it all has to do with. Therefore, if now you became a Kohen Gadol, you let it continue and conclude the Nisuin. Yachi says the Gemara Shmeres, you have a Nami? No, Isha v'lo Yevama. The Pasuk says Isha, not Yibum. And Ma'isiv Yeshua ben Barsa, Shua ben Gamla, says the Gemara, Manuin, Nismananoi, Loi. What was the story? The story was that Manu, who was Manuim to be the Kohen Gadol? The king. So it sounds like only if the king made him the Kohen Gadol he can marry, but not if the other Kohanim and the Sanhedrin made him into the Kohen Gadol. Amar Rav Yosef, Katir, Kachazina, Hacha, I smell something fishy. A conspiracy theory. Tamar Ravasi, Tarkiva de Dinri, Ailile, Marsa Bar, Baisis, a Tark of gold dinarim, the Marsa Barbasis bring to home, Liana Malka to King Yana, Adamokila, Yeshua ben Gamla, Bekani, Ravi, until they made Yeshua ben Gamla as the Kohen Gadol. And this was during the Bayis Sheni, that what was going on over there was the Kuna Gedaila was being purchased and being bought, and that's what the Mishnah is honing in on. Continues the Mishnah on the second white line, Kohen Gadol Shameis Echav Chaylet Slimi Yavim. If a Kohen Gadol's brother died, and now the Kohen Gadol has a situation of Yibum, what's the halacha? Kohen Gadol can't do Yibum. Chaylet Veloy Miyabim. Says the Gemara Kapasik Vitani, the Tana was learning Loy Shana Min Eiris and Loy Shana Min Nesuin. It's irrelevant if the brother died after Eiris and Nesuin and then fell for the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol cannot do Yibum. Says the Gemara. With regard to Nesuin, I understand. There's an asay and a lois asay. The Kohen Gadol, in order to marry this girl, would violate both. And therefore, v'nasei, the asay of Yibum is not doich lois asay v'asay. Element Eirisin. But if the brother only did Eirisin, I don't understand. Yava asay v'yirches lois asay. Why does the asay come along and push away the lois asay? Says the Gemara, you know why? You're right, and this is something we spoke about at the very beginning of the Masechta, that it's true. Ostensibly, in a vacuum, a Kohen Gadol should be allowed to do Yibam to a brother's wife that only did Erusin. Because the Kohen Gadol has an Asein, the problem is, what happens to the subsequent Biyah? The first Biyah has a din of an Asay. But Gezerah Biyah Rishayna to be a Shniya. But the Biyah Shniya is not going to be allowed, and that is the reason why we don't even allow the Biyah Rishayna. And this we dealt with extensively when we dealt with the Sugya of Asay de Chalais Asay. And now we continue with the third Mishnah of the day in the bottom of Samach Aleph Amud Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Kohen Hadid lo Yisa Eilenis. A Kohen Hadid is not allowed to marry an Eilenis. An Eilenis is a girl that cannot have children. So a Kohen Hadid is not allowed to marry such a girl. Unless if a Kohen Hadid already is married and already has a wife and kids, then he's allowed to marry an Eilenis. Rav Yehuda no. Why? Shehi Zaina ha'amura b'Torah. A strong word. Says Rav Yehuda, you know why? Because this is the Zaina that the Torah mentions. When the Torah says lo yikach Zaina, not lo yikach Zaina, the Torah says that a Kohen is not allowed to marry a Zaina. According to Rav Yehuda, that refers to any woman that cannot give birth. So Rav Yehuda forbids that this man, this Kohen, even though he has a wife and kids, from marrying the Zaina, from marrying the Eilenis, because he considers her a Zaina. Says the Chachamim, no, this is not a Zaina. A Zaina is either a Giyaris who had relations, Mishachareres, a slave that got freed and had relations, or a girl that was Neveles, Bilazinos, any form of illicit and inappropriate relationship. But this girl, just because she cannot have children, does not deem her a Zaina. Says the Gemara, let's go into the din of the Tanna Kama. The Tanna Kama teaching us that a Kohen Hadid lo Yisa Eilenis. A Kohen Hadid, a regular Kohen, is not allowed to marry this woman that cannot give a birth. Says the Gemara, Amarli Rish Kalusla Rav Ahuna, my time, what is the reason of the Tanna Kama? Misham Aperi of Arevia. You know why? Because the Kohen is never going to fulfill the mitzvah of having children. Says the Gemara, 1 second. Is the din of Puravu the first mitzvah of the Torah? Is that a din only about for a Kohen? Of course not. Every Jew is commanded for Puravu. So why are you telling me specifically a Kohen can't marry this Eilenis? Because he has to fulfill Puravu. What do you mean? Every Yid is included. So Amar Lei says Rav Huna Misham Dekaboy Lemisni Seifa, because the Mishnah wanted to say at the end there of Yudaim Rav Bishish Yisho Banim. Even though if you have a wife and kids, still says Rav Yehuda Yisailenis as we turn over to Amid Beis. Why? Says Rav Yehuda Shizayin Amur Bat Torah Dazayin Koyanim Udemifkidi V'Yisrael Mifkidi, and a Zaina is only an issue for Kohanim, whereas Yisraelim does not have such an issue. Meaning, the Gemara is conceding that really the din and the ratio of Lo Yisraelim is really applying even to a Yisrael. Why? Because of the din of Puravu, says Rav Yehuda. So why is the Mishnah honing in on a Kayin? Because of the Seifa, because the Seifa's din of Zaina is the din of a Kayin. So it says Kayin in the ratio, but indeed it's really a din by Yisrael as well. So Amar Rav Huna comes like Rav Huna and says, my time with Rav Yehuda, where does Rav Yehuda get this din from? That the marriage to a Zaina, the marriage to an Eilenis is considered a Zaina. It says in the Torah, Ichluv la'yispu, Hiznuv la'yifratu. They're going to eat Achluv la'yispu, they won't be satisfied. Hiznu, they're going to have Znos, v'la'yiftzuru, they're not going to have children. So said Rav Yehuda, you know we learn out from this pasuk in Hosea, Kol bia she'ein ba pirza, ala bila znos. Any relationship, any act of intercourse that cannot bear a child is called a bia of Znos. End of discussion of number 1, the first part of the Mishnah, the din of marrying an Eilenis. It's not only with a Kohen or not, and why Rav Yehuda holds that an Eilenis is considered a Zaina. Tanya says the Gemara learned in a brayso, Rav Eliezer Omer Kohen lo yisa a ketana. A Kohen is not allowed to marry a ketana. Seemingly, Rav Eliezer coming along with a completely unrelated din. We'll see in a moment how it's related. But Rav Eliezer says a Kohen cannot marry an Eilenis. Amrli Rav Chisda l'Rabba. Go look into this story. Because in the evening, Rav Huna is going to ask of you what the story is. So Nafik, he went out, he looked into why does Rav Eliezer teach us that a kohen cannot marry a ketana. You know why? Rav Eliezer Savla Kira Meir, Visavla Rav Yehuda. He holds of two opinions. Rav Eliezer holds of Rav Meir and the Rav Yehuda. What's Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda? Savla Kira Meir, that what? The Chayish L'Miyuta. That he's Chayish for a Miyut. That he's Chayish every time we have a girl that we're not sure can this girl have children or not. We have to be concerned. Wait. Maybe she's an islandess. Maybe she cannot have children. That's what it means. He holds like Rav Meir. And therefore, says Eliezer, a kohen cannot marry a ketana because every ketana, the mere fact of her age, she can't have a child. But now we're not sure. Wait, maybe she'll never be able to have children. Maybe she's an islandess. And there's a small percentage that says such. Rav Meir is chayshish for that. And Rav Yehuda says that an islandess is Zaina. And therefore says Rav Eliezer, Kohen cannot marry a ketana. Asks the Gemara, Ukra Meir mi savarla. Does Rav Eliezer really hold of Rav Meir that we're chayshish for a miyut? V'atan, we learned in our brayso, Katan uketana l'chol tzul l'miyam in Rav Meir. Rav Meir says a katan or a ketana, a boy or a girl who's a minor is not let him marry and not let him do chalitza or yibum. Divrei Rav Meir. Amru loyle Rav Meir. They said the chacham is Rav Meir. Yafa amrit shein chaltzim. The fact that you don't want to let a katan and ketana do chalitza, that I understand why. Says the Torah ish ksiv b'parsha u'makshini shalish. So that I understand. Has to be a gadol. Elamai taima in miyamin. So he said, Rav Meir, why can't a katan and ketana do yibum? Responds Rav Meir, Amar lei, katan shamayim sasris, ketana shamayim sailenis. You know why? Maybe the katan will be a man that can't have children. Maybe the ketana will be a girl that cannot have children. And therefore, we're not going to allow them to do yibum on the small percentage. They might not be able to fulfill the whole purpose of yibum, which is to have children. V'nimsu, what's going to happen? Baigim b'erva. You're sleeping with your brother's wife. That's an erva. It's only allowed if you're going to have children. But due to the concern, says Rav Meir, this katan and ketana might not be allowed to have children. Therefore, says Rav Meir, katan and ketana cannot do yibum. So far, we haven't seen anything about Rav Eliezer. But says the Gemara V'tanya, we learned in a brayso, ketana misya bemes v'eina chayletzes divrei Rav Eliezer. So what do we see? Rav Eliezer does not hold like Rav Meir. Rav Meir hold every katan and ketana cannot do yibum because maybe they will not be able to have children. But Rav Eliezer says a katana can yes do yibum. Clearly, he does not hold like Rav Meir. And almost beating a dead horse, ask the Gemara further. Ukrav Yehuda mi savarla. What was your second point that Rav Eliezer holds that a kohen cannot marry a ketana? Why? Because he held like Rav Yehuda that every islandess is a zaina. Says the Gemara, is that true? V'atanya zaina kishma devi Rav Eliezer. Rav Eliezer held what's a zaina? Zaina, an adulteress. Doesn't refer to any islandess. Or, now we're going to have 6 different ways of what a Zaina is. So let's just not lose track. The Gemara is asking a question. The Gemara said that Rav Eliezer says a ketana cannot marry a kohen. Why not? Because Rav Eliezer holds of Rav Meir and Rav Yehuda. We just disproved that he can't hold like Rav Meir because Rav Eliezer allows a ketana to do yibum, number 1. Number 2, we just disproved that Rav Eliezer holds like Rav Yehuda because Rav Eliezer says that what's a Zaina? Zaina is a Zaina, a real Zaina, an adulteress. Whereas Rav Yehuda said every islandess is a Zaina. And as we're going to see in a moment, at the end of this brayso, Rav Eliezer explicitly is arguing on Rav Yehuda because this is the brayso that Rav Yehuda is about to say that a zaina is an islandess. So let's get there. So that's opinion number 1. Opinion number 2, Rav Akiva Omer zaina zu mufkares. A zaina is one that's mufkar. Let anyone be with her. Rav Masya ben Charish Omer, a third opinion, says afilu alech bailu la'ashkaisa u'ba'ala ba'derech asa zaina. Even if what happens, the husband went to the Beis HaMikdash and he makes her drink the Meis Haita, and on the way the husband's with her, which of course he's not allowed to be, that makes her into a Zaina. That goes back to the discussion we had the other day. What's the status of if the husband is together with his wife after suspecting her of being a Saita? Opinion number 4, Rav Yehuda Omer Zaina zu Eilanis. There it is. So we see in this brayso explicitly Rav Yehuda saying Zaina zu Eilanis and Rav Eliezer saying Zaina. So clearly Rav Eliezer doesn't know like Rav Yehuda. Concluding the brayso of Chacham remains Zaina Aligeris Rechaz and Rela Hila has Zunos. That's our Mishnah. And Rav Eliezer Aimer Banoya Abal Benuya. And a fifth opinion, which of course they changed the Girsa from Rav Eliezer to Rav Elazar, which already had Rav Eliezer in this Mishnah. Rav Elazar says, Kol Abal Benuya Shleishem Ishas Asa Zaina, as we had yesterday, any relationship between single boy and girl creates a Zaina. So we see clearly that Rav Eliezer does not hold like Rav Meir and does not hold like Rav Yehuda. So we don't know why does Rav Eliezer hold that a Kayin is not allowed to marry a Ketana. The Gemara suggested because he holds a Recheshish for the Miyat that maybe this girl cannot have children, she's an eyeless. And he holds like Rav Yehuda that every eyeless is din of a Zaina, and therefore the Kayin can't marry. But said the Gemara, we proved he doesn't hold the Rav Meir, he doesn't hold the Rav Yehuda. So why does Rav Eliezer hold that a Kayin cannot marry a Ketana? So says the Gemara, Ella, Maravad Barava Nu Teretz. Hacha b'koyin gadol askina. I'm not dealing with a regular koyin. Rav Eliezer is saying a koyin gadol can marry a ketana. Says the Gemara, you know why? Le'emas kanila. When does the koyin gadol acquire this woman as his wife? Lechi gadla. Only when she becomes an adult, and when she gets to be an adult, Ulahi. And therefore, says the Rav Eliezer, a Kohen Gadol can I marry a Ketana? Rashi points out, because Kedushin Ketana is not a full-fledged Kedushin. The Kinyan only happens when she becomes a Gedayla. The problem is when she's a Gedayla, she's going to be a Ba'ula. So says Rav Eliezer, a Kohen Gadol can I marry a Ketana? Amar Rava asks Rava, Mechale Leiv, destroyer of the Leiv, destroyer of the mind. What are you talking about? If the father of this girl, this Ketana, married her off to the Kohen Gadol, a father's allowed to marry off his daughter. If she married off herself, we're going in the opinion of Rav Eliezer and not in the opinion of the Rabbanan. And if the whole reason why over here this Kohen Gadol cannot marry the Ketana is because there was no Kinyan, that's nothing to do with Rav Eliezer. The Chachamim would agree to that. So Ela Marava, you know what's going on. Loilams, this is a third attempt at what's going on in Rav Eliezer's din of a Ketana marrying a Kohen. Ela Marava, the Kohen Hadi, we're dealing with the Kohen Hadi. So why can this Kohen Hadi not marry Ketana? Because we are afraid that if a Kohen marries a Ketana, she's going to be seduced by another man, and that's why we don't want this Kohen to get involved with this girl. The mere fact that she's a Ketana doesn't allow her to have the strength to withstand seduction. That's where Eliezer says he cannot marry her. Says the Gemara, Yachi Yisrael Nami. If the whole concern is that a Ketana might be swooped up by another man, it's like do the Kayin. Every Yisrael shouldn't be allowed to marry a Ketana. Explains the Gemara, but if a Ketana is mefate, is seduced, as the din of an oines, as din of rape, as violation. V'oines be Yisrael mishra shari. And if one's wife is ma'anes, they're still mutter. But when one's Kayin wife is ma'anes, then they're ulcer. So that's why Eliezer says a Ketana cannot marry a Kayin, cannot marry a Ketana. Rapapa Amar, and that teretz stands the test of time. Rapapa Amar v'Kohen Gadol. No, we're doing the Kohen Gadol. V'Tanu, and the following Tani. The Tani we learned in Abraisa Besula. It says in the Torah Besula Yachal Ketana. I would think the Kohen Gadol let him marry Ketana. Tamalay Mar Isha. Isha Yachal Bagaris. I would think it has to be a Bagaris. Is it a Ketana Bagaris? Tamalay Mar Besula. Okay, said what is it? Yatsa Mechlal Kandos Uchal Baglus Leibalsa. It's not a Ketana, not a Bagaris. What is it? Right in the middle, in between her, is a Naira. So opinion number 2, why does Eliezer say he cannot marry a Ketana? Because he learns that Kohen Gadol don't let him marry a Naira. Opinion number 3, Rav Nachman Yitzgamar, Aitanu the Tanya. You know what Eliezer is going in? He's going the following Tanya. The Tanya learned in a Braisa Besula in Besula. Says the Torah Besula, Ein Besula le Naira. The Naira was very beautiful, Bisula. And this is another way of learning out that the Kohen Gadol has to marry a Naira. So 3 different ways of why Eliezer says a Kohen cannot marry a Ketana. Either it's about Kohen Gadol, and it means Kohen Gadol has to marry a Naira. 2 different ways of learning like that. Or it's talking about a regular Kohen, and their concern is that the Ketana will be mafate by another man, and Pitui seduction of a Ketana is din of an Einis, and a Kohen's wife that is Ma'anis is also to him. And finally, we conclude that the Gemara says of Lazar Aimer Panaba Benuya Shleishem Ishas Asa Zaina, Namar Avamim Ein Halachic Rav Lazar, wrapping up loose ends. We'll just begin the Mishnah. We'll pick up from the Gemara tomorrow. Says that the Gemara, once we started talking about Puravu in the beginning of today's shir, Lo Yavatal Adam Ipir says the Mishnah, person is not allowed to abstain from Puravu. Elim Kain Yesh Lo Ban unless he has children. Beishami, I remember very famous Gemara, Shnei Zacharim, Beisel Aimrim, Zachar Nekeva. Why? Shenamar Zachar Nekeva, Bar Says the Gemara, let's begin the Gemara. Ha-yesh leibanim mipir of Rivya. Batal. Ha-yesh leibanim. Ask the Gemara, but if he has children, mipir of Rivya batal, is he allowed to abstain from Puravu? Meisha leibatal. But he's not abstaining from taking a wife? If he already fulfilled the mitzvah of Puravu, what do you mean? He doesn't have an obligation anymore to have any children. So therefore, what do you mean? But what about the chiyuv to get married? Says the Gemara, Masayli Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel Da'amar Af Al Pi Sheyesh Leiladim Kama Banim Osir Lamed B'Lo Isha. That's a raya that we see. Says Rav Nachman Amar Shmuel that it's not only a din in Puravu. There's one din to have children, but even with children, you need to have a wife. Shenamar Leitayva Yes Adam Levade. It's not good for a man to be by himself. He has to have a wife. You could hear another way of learning our Mishnah. Hayesh leibanim batal me Puravu. Where Medaik the Mishnah, if he has children, he could be abstained only from Puravu. Ubatal nami meisha. And now the Mishnah is learning the opposite. He's even allowed to not have a wife. And there, if that's what the Mishnah is teaching us now, name it David Tivter of Nachman Amar Shmuel. It's a kasher of Nachman Amar Shmuel because he said there's a separate thing you have to have a wife. Says the Gemara, lo, it's not a kasha. Why? Because ein loy banim noisei isha bas banim. If he has no children, he marries a woman that has children. Yesh loy banim noisei isha delav bas banim. Can marry a woman that does not have children. That's what Nachman Yitzchak Amar Shmuel meant. Nafkamino limcha sefer Torah b'shvolvan. If you have to sell a sefer Torah in order to be able to have children, we'll pick it up from. And obviously these are very large discussions over here. We'll pick it up from Beis Shammai in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.